Nikki, welcome back to the show, buddy.
It's been a couple of weeks, huh?
Yes, man. It's I would love to have you guys on every week, but I know you guys have things to do. This is my little journey. You guys are on the ride long term now, but I don't expect every week you guys to bless me with your presence. But this is a nice episode because it's the last episode of spooky season.
That's horrifying. It's the end of October.
I know, it's pretty crazy. It's the last episode of spooky season, and we did a local haunt last week with the Oakland Cemetery Lady in White, and I think this is appropriate to have this special guest on because the Bronx Bombers are in the World Series for maybe a couple more days.
They're not doing much better than the Mets did against the Dodgers.
They win 6 games, though.
All right, well, we got 3 at home.
Okay, and this is not a sports talk radio, so we'll exclude that, but the reason we're doing a Bronx is Haunted episode is I met with someone recently within the last few weeks, very interesting individual, and he has a Instagram page that is phenomenal. And when me and him talked, he brought in a lot of spooky stuff into this conversation and history. So, joining us on the Say What Again Billy podcast is Perrin from The Bronx is Beautiful. Perrin Lawton, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, how are you guys?
I'm doing well. How's everything going on your end?
I'm doing great. Well, you know I'm out here at Six Flags. But I'm doing great. I'm just so happy to be on this platform to explain more about the Bronx and the hauntings that we had. Which
Yes.
some people don't know.
Yeah, so
And the spirituality. And I compared the Northeast Corridor to New Orleans. So it is oh, sorry. It is at, dagnabbit, I went out my head. It is below sea level, just like New Orleans. Also, too, the spirituality, with the Nape. Also, to talk about the ghost ships around City Island.
yeah, I want to hear all about this stuff. But before we get into that, just tell everybody why you started the page, The Bronx is Beautiful, and then go into a little bit about yourself. And then we'll touch on all the nice haunted history spots of the Bronx.
Okay, well, my page began last year. And of course, right now, everything is the Bronx is dirty, the Bronx is trash. I don't know what it is. I guess it's trendy now. I feel like after COVID, because it wasn't even like this in 2019.
Right.
The Bronx is dirty, the Bronx is trash. I would never go there. It's full of druggies. And people being real ignorant towards it, right?
Right.
I came up with The Bronx is Beautiful. It's crazy because it was actually called Law and History Tours.
Okay.
I was like, I'm not a fan of this name. And I'm sitting in the park with my mother. We're at Bronx Park East. And I'm like, we was looking at the trees, and we was just something about us dazing out. And we just looked at each other and we was like, you know what we should call it? And we said it at the same time, synchronized. The Bronx is Beautiful. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to change it to that. So, but I was like, instead of I put DA. Because I seen everybody had the Bronx. Every little program, teacher, everything was the Bronx, the Bronx, the Bronx. I was like, I need to be different because I am unique in general.
Right.
Over the course of time, my page started to get bigger. And when I say bigger, I used to do small little community stuff, right? With posting some businesses. But by January, I said, I got to take it up a notch. Because there is so much more to this borough through pop culture. History is so broad. And the thing with our borough is what I do not like, and I have to say hate with a passion, because I am a Bronxite, which other Bronxite pages do, is showing how we're like a charity borough. It's promoting how poor we are. We need money and resources. We need this. And it's like, I don't remember growing up in the Bronx feeling like I was a charity case. I feel like growing up in the Bronx, I felt rich, right? When I say rich, I mean just with the stuff that we had, our block parties, the real community that we had. And to even say you're from the Bronx, you know, when other people here in other states, it's like, oh, the Bronx? It's the bomb.
Right. That's the reputation the Bronx has.
Been living that way forever.
Exactly. So what I do, I post the history. I'm gonna post the pop culture. Video games that was inspired by the Bronx. It's called Last Bronx. It's a Sega game from Japan. So their inspiration for Last Bronx is the Bronx. The Last Bronx is an area in Tokyo. It's not a real place, and it's just like the Bronx. It's supposed to be dirty and gritty and with gangs. So I was like, that's dope. The Bronx is an inspiration for a video game.
Right.
Then there's a rock metal band. It's called the Bronx. They're not even from the Bronx. They're from LA. They said the reason why they wanted to name their band the Bronx because you know what they said? It meant something strong, like warriors. They wanted something dirty and gritty and basically intimidating. So they was like, we're going to name our band the Bronx. So for people who never even been to the Bronx, but they heard about it, it's very inspirational across the globe, evidently. So I had to show Bronxites, like, listen, you are an impact more than just New York City itself, more than I could even say Brooklyn, because everything about the Bronx, everybody loves. So I'm also trying to show Bronxites, like, listen, this is why people want to come here, because right now everybody's scared of gentrification. I'm like, we don't want people here. I'm like, you're not in the Midwest. This is the Bronx. You're in a place with what is known worldwide. This is not Jackson, Mississippi. This is not nowhere, Idaho. This is the Bronx. You're known. So instead of fearing it, use your lands and your home to your for your abundance and opportunity, right?
Right.
Because start your businesses. You got to show something of what do you have to offer as a Bronxite instead of being scared because your rent's gonna go up. It's gonna go up no matter what. But my thing is with my pages, I had to do it so broad, as in you're gonna see the Italian community, you're gonna see Albanian community, because people again they just think poor Black and Latino South Bronx ghetto and hip hop, and it's tiring because we all are not like that. You know, even if you did grow up in the South Bronx, you didn't feel like that. And so the thing is too with my page, I put music behind certain videos that I do when I do scenic stuff where it looks like things that's not in the Bronx when I'm hiking and stuff like that. So Bronxites are even shocked and they're like, where is this? I didn't know this was in the Bronx. And then of course you got, that's not the real Bronx. And I have to say, what is the real Bronx? Because people that grew up on the other, go ahead.
That's how you came across. I came across you is that I was on Instagram one day, and I posted. I don't know. It might have been on my podcast page or from my YouTube that I did a short reel. I was doing a hiking trip. Might have been on my podcast page, and I went to the Kasbanoff Trail, and I saw that had been tagged or my video was featured on your page.
Yes,
and then I looked at the video. I was like, oh, wow, I forgot I did that. And I went through your page and I saw everything. And I liked what I see because, like you were saying, you're not a typical Bronx, Instagram page. There's, it's just not a typical page. It's got a lot of diverse things from food places to scenic areas in the Bronx. Van Cortlandt Park. You got Orchard Beach stuff on there. You got people on there in places that I never even knew about. Introducing me to Allie, which I hope to have her on soon.
Yes.
And it's a very unique page, and I'm putting up the description and the Instagram picture of your page. So your page is fantastic because it shows people the side of the Bronx that is not what people think. And again, when you see the movies and you have the Sega game, which actually I never even played that. You played that game?
That game, no, but I know Streets of Rage. I don't know if you've ever played that game, but Streets of Rage, the whole series was based out of New York City, and a lot of it is Manhattan, but it does go into the boroughs. So Streets of Rage was always a fun one for me.
I've never played that Sega game that you are.
That's Bronx.
I have to find it now, though.
Yeah, I have. I got this.
Yeah, it's on my page. If you scroll on it, because it's the intro to the video game, so it was in the pizza shops.
Okay.
It was one of those arcade games.
I love those games.
Yes. So I feel like now it's again my page is more of an affirmation. I'm very spiritual. So how my numbers grow, I have to go with the spirit of the Bronx, right?
Right.
So my page is like the block party, as in back in the day. Oh shit, what's happening on this block? That's basically how my page is. giving you that nostalgia of the Bronx as well. I post old VHS videos from back in the day with families. Then, and I love it because people in the comments will be tagging people like, yo, this is you, so-and-so. And the thing is, too, is to have a page which Bronxites are the stars. It's not, oh, you're famous now, you're a star, and you represent the Bronx. No. And I also got my inspiration from other pages, like TBO Harlem and another Brooklyn page. And that was another thing, too. The Bronx did not have a community page. Now, we have the Bronx Native. It's a Bronx page, but it's mostly him, and that's no shading. What is there? Also, too, there's other Bronx pages, but it's not showing anything about the Bronx. So, and then on top of it, everything is going to be Fordham Road, Kingsbridge, 161, Fordham Road, Kingsbridge, 3rd Ave. I'm like, I know we have more places than this, So it's like, I know I was like, I had to put on a page where I'm mixing Bronxites' creativities on as well, the pop culture, the history, every little thing, even down to spirituality, and how to make it engaging and fun. So I also post memes to keep like the younger generation on.
Right.
So it's like you're going to laugh, but now you're going to learn. Then you're going to laugh, and then you're going to learn. But now you enjoy laughing and learning at the same time. And my thing is, it's a high vibrational Bronx page. You want to feel good. I want you to digest the information and the stuff that I'm sharing to you and go, oh, it warms your heart about the Bronx that we all grew up to know and love. Because I'm like, this whole Bronx is trash, is dirty. I'm like, well, clean it up. What's the problem? Like, what is the problem? It's a 99-cent store. There's brooms and dustpans. You can rally up people. But my thing is, people don't want to hold people accountable.
Well, you're doing a great job on the page. You're putting a lot of content out there. And you're definitely, from what I see, on a daily basis, changing the perspective of the Bronx. So if people do follow your page, or now hopefully you'll have some new followers, people will see that the Bronx is beautiful, and there's many places, and there's a lot of diversity now. It was more than ever in the Bronx. So
yes,
I'm hoping you get a lot of followers and listeners. Well, at least followers from being on the show today. But I want you to now take me to a place where my video was discovered by you, that Kazmanoff Trail. When me and you were talking, this is a place that's it's actually within Orchard Beach. And there's 2 trails there, Hunter Island and then the Kazmanoff Trail. And when we were talking, when we linked up, we talked for like a good 40 minutes that day too.
Yes.
You were telling me that there is Native Americans buried within the Kazmanoff Trail of Orchard Beach.
Yes.
Now, before we get into that, Orchard Beach is a very big beach in the Bronx. I'm obviously Nick is privy to it. Nick's a fellow Bronxite, and it's been through a mixture of it's a great beach to it's a dirty beach. To me personally, when I started going there again after COVID, and I've been going to Orchard Beach. Me and my friends would go there on the weekends. In my early 20s, mid 20s, we'd go there, and then we'd go to Greasy Nick's on Shore Road. Mm-hmm. To me, it was always a nice place. It was never really dirty. It was awesome.
Yeah.
During COVID, I went back there. We all needed some way to keep healthy, to keep moving during COVID because gyms were closed. And I was going there. I found the Kazmanoff Trail. Went there every weekend, the whole course of COVID. And you have some tales that are spooky in regards to the Kazmanoff Trail, which people that are in the Bronx know about Orchard Beach. So they may or may not know about that trail. Everyone has been on the Orchard Beach boardwalk at some point in their life. I want you to start with the Kazmanoff Trail, Hunter Island. Tell us some history about that location, what's haunted there, which right off the shore in the waters of Orchard Beach is not only the island that's the largest powder field in the United States, which is Hart Island, but you also have Execution Light Rock House, which is not far from Orchard Beach City Island. So within the area, there's a lot of spooky places. So let's get your historic Bronxite input about the ghost tales of Orchard Beach and the Kazmanoff Trail.
Oh, all right. So first things first, I'll start with the Siwanoy Native Americans. It's sacred burial ground back there. It's called the Great Mare Glacier.
Okay.
And there's 2 Native American Siwanoy shaman that are buried back there. So it's on the northwest end of the island. Now, me, I'm a borough as well, so I'm a spiritualist. When I say spiritualist, not somebody who just says, I want to be a spiritualist, because that's trendy. People who are actually born with the gift to see ghosts, feel the energy of the land and everything like that.
Right.
So back there, the energy is, because again, they had their ceremonies back there. You could feel the energy of the Siwanoy. I bring people up there. I don't explain that. I don't tell them the history until we get up there, and people will start breaking down and they will start crying. And they're like, I don't know what's happening. And I'm like, well, this is what's happening. And I'll tell them, I was like, it's the energy of the Lenape. They're all around you back here. Also too, the glaciers. Do you know the glaciers off of the planks when you're walking across?
Yeah, that's fairly in the middle of the trail, kind of Kasparov Trail. Yeah, it's kind of on there.
So when you get to the other island and you see the other island across, sometimes you could walk over to it, sometimes you can't, due to it being low or high tide. The 4 glaciers that you see over there, the Lenape, the Siwanoy, believe that their gods left it there. So that is actually sacred land. Those stones are very, very sacred. They prayed on it.
So you're talking about the stones that are, you take that wood plank and you're on that separate island.
Yes.
And the only way you can get there is if
it's low tide.
Yes, I have walked out there on 3 occasions. One time I went out there, I was by myself, and I was like, oh my God, I can get to the islands, because I always call those rocks, I call them the Orchard Beach Stonehenge, because they look, like...
That's what is crazy. Everybody else says that.
Yeah, I call them Orchard Beach Stonehenge. And I was like, I can get out there and see them up close and personal. So I'm out there, I'm looking at the rocks, I'm taking pictures, I'm videoing me going out there and like, oh, look, I'm walking out there. And now I'm like dilly-dallying on the rocks. I'm looking at the clams that are on the floor. There's like all this stuff there. Yeah. Next thing I know, I turn around and I'm looking and the fucking tide's coming in. And I'm like, oh shit. I'm not a good swimmer.
It comes in fast.
Yeah. I'm like, oh shit. And I actually walked back and it was like knee deep. I was like, fuck. I got soaking wet. My shoes were soaked. I was like, I won't do that again without someone else there telling me the tide's coming in. But now it's good to know it's those rocks. So they were worshiping those rocks that were formed by glacial formations from many years ago.
Yes. Now, the Bronx Witch's headquarters, right? So she did her first Bronx vacation last year.
Okay.
I told Allie, because again, I'm from the Northeast Bronx, and I always felt this feeling, but I couldn't put my finger on it ever since I was young. Over in that area, that region, and this is before I even found out about the book of the hauntings of Pelham. If you're outside, and let me break it down so it's more clear for people.
Okay.
Off the Long Island Sound, even if you're at Orchard Beach late at night, if you're on Davenport Island in New Rochelle at the park, if it is between 12:30 a.m. and 2:30 a.m., it's very awkward, all right? So I told Allie the first time, I said, listen, when we go up there, let's go outside from between 12:30 a.m. and 2:30 a.m. The wind started blowing right on time. Everybody heard boom, 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 boom. So everybody just looking at each other like, did you hear that? Now, some people didn't hear it. They're like, what? So again, of the spiritualists, we looked at each other like, you heard that shit. Yeah, I heard that shit. Mind you, it's pitch black. We're not in the normal Bronx of fireworks. And these was heavy.
What month was it? Do you recall the month?
Oh, it was October. It was October last year.
Okay.
It was this time because she had it on the 25th, like last year.
Okay.
So, I already know the history though. So I already knew where I heard cannons. Now there's people saying that they saw like Native American girls running on the yard. They could see them.
Okay.
And I was like, all right. Now the wind stops. When the wind stops, this is what happens. the next cycle is going to pick up right after. So when you're up there, when you clap, you don't even hear your echo. The water there's no ripples. It is just, there's nothing happening. There's no wind blowing. It's always at that time. There's no wind blowing. There's no ripples in the water. It's very chilling. And it's very awkward. Like, this is weird. I'm outside. There's no wind blowing. But then the mysterious wind picks up again. So now the wind picks up again. I'm like, oh shit, here we go. So when the wind picks up, people said they saw soldiers, and this one particular soldier, he had a gray uniform on, and they said he had craters in his face. And they said, well, he's just walking, looking at us like, what are we doing there? Very racist, right? I already knew why. As soon as they described him, I already knew why. And also, too, they seen other nurses that was, on the premises as well, because the house that we're at was it was a house for Mount Sinai for their nurses. And they was, they just had their classes and stuff there.
Okay.
So now that happens, I explained everything to them. So after everything happened, I said the first thing y'all heard with the cannons, that is due to battle at Pell's Point, because the British ships were right there. So, and I bring out my handy dandy books and I'm showing them, and they're like, what? So then I told them when the second part happened, and the wind picked up, and they saw a guy in a gray uniform, and he seemed like he was racist and stuff. I was like, right across from us is David's Island. David's Island had the Confederate soldiers over there as prisoners. So they were like, oh my God. So also too, when people stayed at the house, people were getting scratched in their sleep. When you speak to Allie, oh, it's going to be popping.
Now, where is this house? Where is this house exactly located in conjunction to where you guys were staying that night?
I can't say it because Allie doesn't want me to say it.
Okay.
It's her house.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay. But it's close.
Yeah.
But it's
close location.
Okay, no, I got that part, but it's close to Orchard Beach?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Very close. So people was getting scratched in the middle of the night, seeing this man walk back and forth in the house, like over by the kitchen, and like hearing things like, and there'll be nobody there. So people had those experiences. Mm-hmm. Now again, me knowing the history, I pull out the Hauntings of Pelham book. And so they were like, oh my God. So, I gave it to them at the end of the trip, and they're looking like, wow, it all makes sense. So I'm like, see, it's real. You know what I mean? It's just not hocus pocus. And even too, City Island with the ghost ships that they would have, that they said that was in the middle of the night. Right. So that area is very, very active spiritually. Also, Cortlandt Park, I don't like it. I hate it. The slaves that was there, because you do know it's a plantation. Most people don't know Cortlandt Park is a plantation.
The mansion.
Yes.
Right.
The mansion, and also to Frederick Van Cortlandt.
Right.
We saw him roaming around his grave on Vault Hill. So they did a trabajo on him. So which means the trabajo is like cursed him.
Right.
Whatever he did with the slaves, they cursed him. So I'm gonna say sexually assaulted, raped up on Vault Hill. So when you're a spiritualist, you can feel the energy. Some people can actually see the old energy of what he was doing.
So we went there. Hill. We went to Van Cortlandt. We went to Van Cortlandt twice when I had my paranormal group, and when we just strictly did paranormal investigations. We went to Van Cortlandt Park. We did the mansion, and 2 years ago we did the trail in the back to investigate the claims of seeing figures, hearing noises, because to inform everybody, in Van Cortlandt Park there was a mass slaughter of Native Americans, and it was a British regiment ran by, I believe his name was General Simcoe, something to that extent. I could be wrong, paraphrasing off memory here. And what ended up happening was General Simcoe's troops were originally picked off by the revolutionaries there. Between the Native Americans and the revolutionaries, they worked together to massacre these British troops. And then he got mad about it. When he heard about that, he was like, dude, this is not going to fly. So then he caught them off guard again, brought back another regiment, massacred the Native Americans, and left them there in a pile. Never formally buried the whole nine. To a point where dogs were bringing back body parts to local villages near there. And then eventually the people around the area gave them a mass burial site. So in Van Cortlandt Park, there is literally a mass burial of Native Americans that were not really properly buried to begin with. So we went there to investigate the claims of Van Cortlandt being haunted in the park area. And at 10:30 at night, Joey, of all people, and Mike, the Luna, we walked 10:30 in at night all the way till about 1:30 in the morning, trying to, pick up on something. Unfortunately, not all paranormal investigations lead to finding evidence, but we didn't really pick up on anything. But Van Cortlandt Park, we were there twice. And then back real quick to Orchard Beach. So again, if you're a Bronxite and you know these locations, right across, if you take the Kazmanoff Trail, right across, once you get to a certain part of the trail, you are now, the Long Island Sound separates Shore Road and Orchard Beach, which is technically part of Pelham Bay Park. Pelham Bay Park is a very big park, the biggest park in New York City. And right across the way is a park called Glen Island Park. Now, if you've ever been to Glen Island Park, which is in the New Rochelle area of New York, there is a beautiful park, nice little roundabout park kind of. There's a castle there. Okay. Yeah. That was there. And there's haunted claims of that castle and a boat that docked over there. And there's a cannon, which goes back to Perrin's story about hearing like cannon fire, because the only cannon that's still remaining in that vicinity is across the waterway on Glen Island, which if it went off, you would clearly hear it in the grounds of Orchard Beach on the Kazmanoff Trail. Yep. So that's super interesting with that story. And then you took us to Van Cortlandt Park. Any other areas in the Bronx that this park is park related? So you did Orchard Beach. You did the Kazmanoff Trail. You touched on Van Cortlandt Park, which I have personally been to numerous times to investigate and play softball there. What other location would you like to touch on in the Bronx that people should know about? It's not only beautiful but haunted.
I could say this, because the reason why those places are very heavy is because it's very quiet. There's not a lot of civilization, so you can actually pick up and you're more in tune.
Well, versus when Orchard Beach, not to cut you off, Orchard Beach is pretty excluded from people living nearby. I mean, the closest places around there is legitimately Co-op City, which is the old Freedom Land, and City Island, right? So you have to take a boat across from City Island to get to Orchard Beach or that part of the trail, or across the way is the Hutch Highway. And then you have Co-op City, which was formerly known as Freedom Land. So, Van Cortlandt, though, big park. There is some buildings and establishments close by, but I give you this. When I was in there with my group at nighttime, you could hear a pin drop. And the only sound you can hear is the Sawmill River Parkway in the distance. Yes.
No, seriously. Because when I walked the trail, when I had my cousin with me, and she didn't know the history. Now, as I said, I don't tell people the history. I just like them to feel shit. Right. So, because I feel like if I tell them, they're going to be, I felt that, I'm like, you lying. So we was walking on the Putnam Trail. Okay. And one thing I could say, sidebar, one thing I love about the Putnam Trail is you still see the tracks of the old Putnam train tracks. And the last train that I went through was June 1st, 1958, which is my mom's birthday, which was the day she was born. In 1958. So that day I'll never forget now.
And the Putnam Trail is in Van Cortlandt?
Yeah, the Putnam Trail, the trail that you walk where everybody's riding their bike.
Okay, so I didn't know. I didn't even know that was the trail that we were on. Yeah.
Oh yes. Yeah. So when you're walking, you're gonna see the old telephone poles, and look to the side, you're gonna see tracks. Now, before it was a paved greenway. When I went in 2017, I believe.
Okay.
I was just walking. I do stupid shit. I was walking, and I said, "Oh, it ends," but I said, "Let me keep walking, see where it goes." It was nothing but marsh and mud. So I had on my Uggs. While I'm walking, I'm like, "What are these big wooden slabs?" I kept walking over it. And then I looked, I'm like, this looks like train tracks. This used to be train tracks. Went home later that night, looked up train in Van Cortlandt Park, boom, the Putnam Trail popped up. And it said that the train ran, because it still goes to Putnam County. So that train would leave. It was the New York Central line or whatever, and it will go all the way from Grand Central all the way up. You know, and you can actually still see the Putnam Trail if you're driving on the Major Deegan, right?
Yeah.
Going southbound. So you know where I think that is Party City, that little mall and stuff is. You're gonna see freight trains just still there. That's the Putnam Trail.
You're talking about the Riverdale section over there where they have the Target.
The Riverdale side.
Target Party. Yeah,
Target Party City while you're driving, but you gotta drive southbound.
The end of Broadway before it becomes almost Dykeman.
Yep.
Yeah, somewhat like that, but it's still on the Bronx. You know, it's on the side of the highway.
The college is over there, right? What college is that? Vincent? I used to play softball over there because I used to have to go.
Talking about.
I used to have to go that way to get to the field that was in off Broadway right there. That's technically Washington Heights, Dykeman almost.
No, it's a little further. So when you're on Van Cortlandt Park and not Broadway, Van Cortlandt Park and Major Deegan.
Okay.
It's because the trail is still off the Major Deegan. The tracks are still there.
Okay.
So when you're driving on the Major Deegan to your right,
there's a lot of graffiti on the train track on the brick, right? There's brick there. Yes.
On the brick.
Yes.
And you're gonna see a freight train there.
Did you just post this recently? Kind of.
I did a week ago.
I saw this. And it was a woman narrating it.
Yes.
Yes, I did see this. Okay.
So the tracks are still there, which is beautiful to me.
Okay.
Also, what was I gonna say? Oh, but more of the spirituality with the Bronx. Like the only way I could get to real spirituality is if it's in places where there's no civilization. So those parks are perfect because I understand what it is. Like my cousin, when she was walking with me, that's what I was gonna say. We was on the Putnam Trail, and she said, "There's a white man following us. He has a long white beard. And he's wearing a green army clothes." Now, if you know about that region, that's the Revolutionary War.
Right.
So you're picking up also too, the slaves do not like the children on playing over there. So I don't take nobody over there to play out of respect. Because the thing is, they're still there. They're roaming around during the course of the day. If you could really see them, like if you got the gift and you could see them, they're not happy people. Whatever, Frederick Van Cortlandt did to them, a lot of stuff. He did some things to them. These are not happy-go-lucky slaves, which I would never say slaves were always happy. Let me say that before I get hashtag and canceled. I mean, as in, they do not like it. They do not want anybody there. They feel like people are here having picnics and parties and the shit that we endured here.
Right.
And it's crazy because it's like when you feel it, and what they do is, they're tricksters. So I don't know if you've been walking in the woods over there. What happens is you'll get back there and you'll be like, where the hell am I? And you're like, I know I was just here. Wasn't the path just behind me? They make sure that you're dazed and confused, especially if you're around the Vault Hill area.
Okay.
And then at the base of the hill, me and my cousin, we've seen it. So there's at the base of the hill, you're going to see cobblestones. Right now it's a sewage system, but it was actually a tunnel where they threw their bodies down there.
Really?
So it's not the burial site that you see now ain't really the burial site because everybody was scattered all over the place. So there's more of their remains all over the place mixed with the soldiers of the Revolutionary War all over the place. So there's so many dead bodies all over Van Cortlandt, you just don't know about it. And people are jogging and, having their latte, taking selfies on top of Vault Hill, and people don't even know that it's a cemetery of the Van Cortlandt family on top. And he's actually walking around his grave. He's walking around his grave because, as I said, whatever he did to any of the slaves, and again, the slaves do from Africa, it's always have their culture of voodoo and, hoodoo, they could curse you. So that follows you in the afterlife. So he cannot leave his grave at all. So that's him for all eternity.
So I'm going to get to another point here. And I think I told you this on the phone when we first spoke. It sounds like you are not only an excellent Bronx aficionado and historian, but it sounds like you are sensitive to the spiritual realm. Can you agree to that?
Oh, you ready for this? Because remember I told you I had to put dirt on my tongue yesterday?
Right. We actually spoke today early, yes.
So, going back before the earthquakes happened,
right.
In my sleep, I say run on.
Nick remembers that right before the April 8th eclipse, literally days before the April 8th eclipse, the earthquake happened in the Bronx. Okay.
You ready for this?
I'm ready.
So, Hunter's Island is the mouth of the Bronx. As I said, that's their ceremonies.
Okay.
Even if you're not even spiritual, you don't know why you keep coming back. Well, me, I'll have visions in my sleep. I have to go put my hands in the dirt. So what happened, this is like a month or two before the earthquake, I went all the way where the Gray Mare Rock is at, where that's where the shaman are buried.
Right.
I put my hand down there, and I had a jolt. I was like, oh shit, she is angry. Rana Chiqua is angry because of how people are treating the land. I said, I think an earthquake is going to happen. Now, I forgot. I told my friend this, right? So when the earthquake happened, I called my friend up and I said, yo, I've been having visions about we're going to have an earthquake. He was like, you don't remember you told me this? I was like, oh shit, I did? He was like, you just told me 2 days ago. I was like, I did? I was like, I forgot. But I said, I think we're going to have another one. Because I said she's giving us signs as in people are fucking with me. And I have to speak like that. But it's not her language, but whatever curse word that she uses, that's what it is. And again, this is Lenape energy.
Right.
Lenape do not like to be provoked. They're very sweet, gentle people. Do not provoke us. And that is just the spirit of the Bronx, Rananchiqua in general. Warriors. So I was like, there's going to be an earthquake again. And I kept feeling it. So what happened is another earthquake happened. And when the earthquake happened, I forgot it was the Ramapo Fault. The Ramapo Fault is a fault, but it don't really do nothing to the people who really don't know. But me, I said, that's a spiritual fault. The Ramapo Fault is a spiritual fault. It's not like San Andreas or anything like that. It's a spiritual fault. So if the energy of the people are disrespecting each other and the land, it gets upset and angry. It's giving you warnings to get your shit together. Some people may be like, oh my God, he's crazy. I'm like, oh, well, too damn bad, but guess what? It's going to happen again. So even this year, I said what's going to happen is, especially with Bronxites, there's going to be a civil war because people are being disrespected by people in their community, and they want to help the community, but people are disrespecting them. I said, I feel like there will be a real war between Bronxites. It's going to be a civil war between Bronxites because it's going to be the ones that scared of gentrification, but this time it's going to shock them because there's going to be a lot of Bronxites that's for gentrification, but for gentrification as in they want to own their buildings and take charge and not be bitches. So it's actually going to be to that point. It will be a civil war where people will be fighting and yelling each other as in we're not tolerating the shit anymore. And that is the spirit of the borough.
Interesting.
So you will see it. I already see how things are happening now, as you see with our politicians.
I feel like we might see that in the next few weeks, to be honest with you.
Yes. So it's when you start, the energy of this land, due to the Lenape, is you're being deceitful towards people. You're lying towards people. That's the ultimate no-no. I want to take it back real quick. We had an episode, and Nick, my co-host here, who's been very quiet, he mentioned something about faults and paranormal activity. Do you want to fill Perrin in on it? And this was Nick's like little
ley lines.
Yeah, the ley lines.
So when I was listening and I was like, okay, talking about nature, talking about being away from civilization, the closer you can get to the land, the closer you can get to an environment that is more untouched and more. So you're talking about spiritual fault line. It's kind of like a ley line, right? So that's where it's going to be most open to the veil, if you want to use that term, where the other side, the spirit side of the world, where you actually, for those that are, even those that aren't, you can feel it.
Yes.
You may not be able to see it. You may not be able to identify it, but in those areas, that's where they have the easiest capability of communicating with us. So you're talking about all these areas, and I'm like, okay, nature, away. And then you said fault line on the spirit side. I was like, that sounds like a ley line. I've been very quiet. I was just listening, but I was like, damn it, that sounds like a ley line. And so it's possible. I'd have to go look up a map. I don't know.
Yes.
If I look up a map, I'm sure if I look for ley lines in New York, I'm sure it's going to be very close to the area you're talking about. And that's where and why these things are going to occur at the, ferocity and the amount that they are occurring at.
Yes, because we actually have been warned twice. And being warned twice is actually being nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because again, if people don't get their shit together, it will be a real big snap to the point where we will feel like we're in LA. Like, oh shit, it happened. It actually happened. But it goes based off the energy of the people. The more wicked the people are towards each other and towards the land, the more angry the land gets.
So I came up with a theory a while back. And have you seen Ghostbusters 2?
I knew you were going to say that.
Oh, no.
No, Perrin, you're killing me, dude.
Mood slide.
Ghostbusters 2, so when you get back from Six Flags, after you ride the Nitro for me,
Oh, yeah, I'm going to have to leave in a few because I got people stuff.
That's all good. We're almost done. In Ghostbusters 2, there's this slime under New York City. And the negativity of people's attitude creates bad entities through this mood slime. And if people are positive, it creates positive effects because of the slime that's under New York City.
Like making the Statue of Liberty move.
Right. So it's kind of similar to what, you keep messing up the spirits of the land and things are going to happen. Now, before I let you go, I just want to say that I wanted to thank you for coming on, number one. Number two is me and you and our crew here, Nick and hopefully my friend Joey, my co-host, we will be able to set something up where we can go there in later in the month where we can do this like little investigation walkthrough with you, have you on camera, and you could tell us and point out the things of Kazmanoff Trail if that's cool with you.
No problem. I'm going to say hell no.
And real quick before I let you go, I want you to give all your information out there. I am going to pull it up on the screen for YouTube purposes, but just let everybody know where they can find you, because this is also a podcast people listen in on as well. So for the people listening, how can they find your amazing Instagram page?
That's right. Plug yourself right now.
My Instagram page, because I'm unique, I'm going to say it 2 times, is The Bronx is Beautiful. Now it is DA_Bronx_is_beautiful. Again, I'm going to say it is DA_Bronx_is_beautiful.
Okay. So for all those that are listening and not watching us on the SWAT Podcast YouTube channel, Perrin, The Bronx is Beautiful. He's the content creator to The Bronx is Beautiful. The Bronx is Beautiful.
Right. Duh.
My nickname is Billy the Kid. So when I made my profiles many years ago and even my PlayStation name,
it's MySpace.
It's Billy the Kid. Just so you know. So we're both unique. Right. But we're gonna link up, Perrin, and I want to have you not only join us at the Kazmanoff Trail and give your historic input and spirituality. I want you to come in studio as well. Everybody, thank Perrin Lawton from The Bronx is Beautiful for coming on the Say What Again Billy podcast. Thank you so much, brother.
All right.
Appreciate it.
You go enjoy the rest of your trip. Me and Nick will take it from here.
Well, now I gotta find them now. I know they mad because I got wallets and I got phones.
Go do your thing. Enjoy your rest of your trip. I'll touch base with you tomorrow morning and let you know when this episode airs. And thank you again for coming on.
All right.
Have a good one.
Bye.
So that was Perrin from The Bronx is Beautiful. What'd you think about Perrin, Nick?
I got half my notes. Cut them in half now.
Yeah.
Definitely got a lot of information there. He knows his stuff. He's very detailed. I'm sure there was definitely more stories there. Unique because the Bronx is burning is a thing that's been happening and been said for years. It was in the 70s and the 80s. Then the Bronx got better, right, in the 90s, late 80s, 90s, early 2000s, and then COVID hit. And He's right. Gentrification. People are afraid of gentrification. They're also worried about the other way, where you're going to take all the middle class of the Bronx is just going to get up and leave because they're tired of the crime and they're tired of this and that and a third. And we grew up in the Bronx our whole life. I never felt like we were the poor borough. I always said the Bronx, and I always heard it as a DA myself. So a lot of good stuff there.
I think on the diversity and of families coming in, and I wanted you to write Nick's notes. I don't know how much time we have to get into all of them, but
no, I'll be quick. I'll just do some real highlight points
in conjunction with him. Mm-hmm. Okay, but real quick, the diversity aspect of the Bronx, I think people have an issue with it, and the reason that people have an issue with it is there's some idiots out there. That the gentrification of neighborhoods, there are some people that are very naive, one-track minded, and that's on them. I think the other problem and the negativity for that is the fact that we're not in a good place right now. However you want to flip it.
I think that's everywhere, though.
I think and because it's everywhere in totality, it's that it makes it hard for people to say, well, now they're changing our area. It's, you know what I mean?
And part of the problem, not to cut you off, part of the problem was we lost a couple of years here where we had any kind of interactions, and it's very difficult, especially the youngest generation. And I say this a lot, they don't have the same social skill because they didn't have to. They were on a screen, behind a screen, so it's very hard for them to do the face-to-face thing. And when you can't do the face-to-face thing and you don't know how to react face-to-face, the default of humankind, unfortunately, just because we are what we are, is negative.
I think also is the fact that we're in such a bad place that we're trying to get ahead, but you can't get ahead.
No,
so
it's
that
quicksand.
On top of everything that's going on, people just can't adapt to change on top of negativity from our own
inability to move forward.
And you know, let's put it this way, like there's a lot of poor decisions in our own government, city government, the official, that it's making things hard. Now,
yep.
That's to
Let's
me,
not dive into
I
that,
love diversity. I love working with all types of people. My job, I work with all types of different people. I love the fact that foods and everything that Perrin put on his page, he gained me as a fan. I always go on his page and see what he's posting. He's been posting old Halloween stuff from all around the Bronx, from the projects to from the Bronx projects to all the parts of the Bronx. He posts a lot of great content. He knows his stuff. Now,
nostalgia in full effect, folks.
Yeah, you have to check out his page. Now, Nick is going to do a different segment of Nick's Note. He's going to piggyback off of what Perrin already mentioned. So you're going to go through that. So a real quick segment of Nick's Notes, all made possible. And a big thank you to Spotify for podcasters. I'll get to the rest of that later. But Nick, take it away.
All right, real quick. So Anne Hutchinson was kind of mentioned.
Yes, real quick. Not cutting you off. For everybody that listens to this podcast, a lot of our listeners and followers are Bronxites.
Hutchinson River Parkway.
But everybody at some point has come across the Hutch Parkway. And they know it as the Hutch. They have no idea.
And you have that reaction, too, when you say the Hutch.
Yeah, especially at certain times. Anywhere between the hours of 5 to 8 o'clock or when the bridge goes up, which is near City Island. But Anne Hutchinson was a historic figure. Very significant story with that. Nick, take it away.
All right, real quick. I will be quick, I promise. So, born Anne Marbury, 1591, Lincolnshire, England. Marries William Hutchinson, has 14 or 15 kids. Big families back in the day. Moves to Boston, 1634, the Puritans. She gets kicked out of Boston because she's so pure, she's making fun of, or not fun of, but arguing with the ministers of the Puritan faith. She's arguing the covenant of the works, which versus what they like, which is the covenant of the grace, becomes a big heresy. She gets charged with and convicted on 80 heresies. And lucky for her, she wasn't hanged or drowned, because that's what was going on back then, right? We talk about like the witch trial kind of.
She got convicted of 80?
80.
Wow.
80, because she just kept going back at these ministers that they weren't pure enough.
Donnie's got some catching up to do.
Yeah. Well, so she goes to Rhode Island. They get kicked out of Rhode Island, though, because they're too close to Boston. So they move even further, and they buy a tract of land in the Bronx. Okay? They buy it from some Dutch, but the Native American tribe that they took it from doesn't recognize this transaction. They don't agree with this because, obviously, it's their land.
Right.
Right? So the Siwanoy, right? Is that how parents said it? Siwanoy?
Yeah, he did say
Seminoy?
Seminoy, yeah.
So, and it's great because that's in here. So they're mad at the Dutch for what's called Keats War. Okay, Keats War was the slaughter of the Lenape tribe. Again, also mentioned by Perrin. So they warned Anne several times. She wasn't listening. Her husband had just died, so she was in charge of building the house. She kept building. She ignored their warnings. So finally, they catch up to the family. They scalp Frances Hutchinson, William Collins, both Annes, the mother and the daughter. They also scalp the younger kids, William, Catherine, Mary, Zuriel. One daughter tries to escape, okay? But according to myth, they drag her back and behead her on a stump with a hatchet.
Oof.
God. They burn the settlement to the ground, so no one really knows exactly where the farm was. Split rock. This is something else that, comes about. Susanna Hutchinson hides in a split rock. It's what it's called because there's a split in it. She's taken captive. For several years, she lives with the Siwanoy tribe until she's finally ransomed back, has 11 of her own kids. Now, the reason they believe she might have got left alive is because she had red hair, and not very much a thing back then was redheads. Okay? Still not a thing, but I'm one of them.
Kind of a redhead.
When it's there, I gotta go back. But so now there's the theory that it could be haunted, right? And that's why I want to just jump on this real quick. Much of the historic Battle of Pelham happens on the road here, okay, which is where you can get to Split Rock. You have to take the road. You know how to get there. I'm not going to go through the whole path. I'm just going to tell
you that I have never seen Split Rock. I've seen pictures online.
But you know the pathway, right?
No.
It's by hunters. You know, there's a route to take, and we could post it later. I didn't write down the exact route because I figured you'd know it. But you can.
Wait, you're saying at Hunter's Island?
There's a way by Hunter's Island you could walk. It's around 95. You have to come off like 95, and there's a way that you'll because James Hunter is mentioned in the concept in the history of Split
Rock.
Not
through Orchard Beach because I
no, you have to come at it from 95. You have to come at it from 95 to get there.
So it's the Pelham Parkway. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to walk that trail that they just kind of redid.
And then kind of it disappears into like land where there's no real trail, and you can. If you want, we can post it. I'll give you the directions later. I didn't write them all down.
Okay.
I figured you kind of been there before.
I wish.
So, anyway, some say that the hauntings are because of the Hutchinson family massacre. However, this has been disproven. A couple of historians, Otto Hufeld and Lemuel Wells, disprove this. They actually prove the massacre is somewhere in Eastchester. So the family farm was somewhere in the area of Eastchester. It bordered with the Bronx, so that it's kind of like in both, but the massacre itself happened in the Eastchester side of it.
It's a little far from Bronx. Little ways.
So now there is a bronze tablet that was placed in 1911 by the colonial dames of New York on Split Rock commemorating Anne Hutchinson. It was allegedly vandalized and they replaced it. It's not there anymore because it almost was destroyed. The entirety of Split Rock was almost destroyed. It still stands because 1958 engineers were going to explode it and build the Hutchinson River Parkway. They were convinced by a Bronx County historian, Theodore Kazimanoff
Trail.
Convinced them not to. So that's why it's actually a little further away. That's why you can still get to Split Rock because this historian of the Bronx said, no, we can't do it. This is very important to the Bronx history.
Theodore Kazimanoff is probably the dude. Not probably. Most 100%.
I mean, when you were saying the name, I was like, there's no way it's not this guy.
Theodore Kazimanoff is the trail in Orchard Beach.
That's probably named after him because he saved some Bronx history there.
Yeah, that whole area is all connected. From Glen Island, the cannons that Perrin said he was seeing. He actually asked me, he's like, yeah, no, I was, Kazimanoff Trail at like 11, 12 o'clock at night. He's like, you have a tent? I was like, I don't know if I would stay overnight in Orchard Beach. I'd be crazy enough. Obviously, everyone knows how crazy I am, but I would be crazy enough to go there somehow. Right. If he could give me the guidelines on how I'm parking.
Right. I might do it in warmer weather. I definitely would do it now.
I would do it to a certain point. I would middle December is my cutoff, but where do you park? I know they any cars left in the parking lot, something's getting towed out. So I don't know how he got there. So I'd have to run that by him.
Probably have to walk a trail to get there.
I'm willing to do it. It'd be a hell of a walk at nighttime. Go with a group. Bronx is beautiful. Not that beautiful at that time of night. I'd walk there and dabble in it. Uber it.
That might be the key. We might have to Uber right to the entrance.
Joey won't come, but I'd be like, Joey, can you give us a ride? And he'll be like, adios, pick you guys up.
See you in a few hours.
Yeah, that's something Joey would do. But that whole area, the history there, and then we didn't even get into like Bartow Mansion and that whole area over there. And then again, too, is something that Perrin didn't get into. Right near there is Co-op City. Co-op City used to be a very big attraction in the Bronx.
That's right, Freedom Land.
Freedom Land. I believe it stopped in the late 60s.
I know it did stop, and I remember once asking Mayor Giuliani at the time, because he visited my 4th grade class. We went to the same school. We won't name it. Doesn't exist anymore. But Giuliani actually stopped by, or maybe it wasn't Giuliani. I take that back. It was the Bronx Borough president at the time, Fernando Ferrer. And I said, well, how come New York doesn't have an amusement park? Because I used to go to Six Flags in summers.
And she told you.
Right. He told me. He's like, we did have Freedom Land. And we I don't remember the whole story, but I remember asking that question.
Freedom Land was made like the map of the United States, kind of like a Disney World kind of thing, and each area was represented in the United States. There was rides and the whole nine. It was from what I seen in photos and stuff like that. It was pretty cool, but that's now known as Co-op City, Bartow, that whole area over there. So there's a lot of history in the Bronx. And then now we know that there's some ghost tales that not many people know about, because Perrin rocked my world when he told me about a trail that I like to go on that, believe it or not, I haven't gone back yet in a while. I usually go about 5 or 6 times at this point in time. Just haven't had the time to do it, but I go to that trail a lot in the fall. So I actually said next week for sure, depending on the weather, I'm going to take a nice walk there and, take in the sights there and look around for some of the stuff that he mentioned to me on the phone. He said there's rocks and like markers and buildings that are buried on that trail. You got to come. That's the trail I've been telling you about.
Yes,
Well, Tuesday I'm thinking about going next week.
I'm gonna see. I get a lot of trips I got to make.
Yeah, so Tuesday I would do that, and then the Oakland Cemetery thing we're gonna try to do. But Perrin, I know you're not on the phone anymore with us. We would like to thank you for coming on.
Outstanding.
He knows his stuff, and that was only a short window that he had time to talk about, but that guy knows his stuff, and he's doing an excellent job showing that the Bronx is more than hip-hop and what people make it out to be. He is showing many people out there that the Bronx is beautiful, and of course, on this episode of the SWAT podcast, he mentioned that not only is the Bronx beautiful, but the Bronx is haunted. And, of course, a big thank you, all made possible to Spotify for Podcasters. If you haven't heard about Spotify for Podcasters, it is the free app that allows you to get your podcast idea
out there.
So if you have a phone, tablet, and or computer, and you want to start your very own podcast, go download and start talking, because that's what Spotify for Podcasters does.
Well, now I got one more thing. You did mention that Perrin talks a lot about, and you were talking about the diversity. You mentioned food. Now you're getting me hungry. Anything that you know that you can help me with that?
I know personally one place which is my favorite, and that is Rock Body Fitness Cafe of the Bronx and New Rochelle, New York, which you heard mentioned from Perrin, New Rochelle. But Rock Body Fitness Cafe has all your healthy food needs all in one place, from their iconic protein bites to the protein shakes they make there on the spot. You can even pre-order your food online, go into the store, pick out your meals, and have them all lined up for pickup or even delivery based on where you live. So if you're hungry and you want to keep your health in mind, go to Rock Body Fitness Cafe of the Bronx, or of course, New Rochelle, which was mentioned quite a few times on this podcast episode. Nick, thanks for coming in today. We're taking a couple of weeks off. Spooky season comes to a close with this episode. It was a nice spooky season this year.
It was. I can't wait till the end of the spooky season. I mean, I love going with my kids out, but then we're into a whole different ball game.
Taking 2 weeks off, not only to rest, but just to see what conspiracies compile in the next few weeks, which I'm sure there will be boatloads. So I'm taking a few weeks to take a breather, see what happens.
Compile our notes.
At the end of November, the second to last week, we're going to have Leslie and Stephen Shaw come back on, talk UFOs, because we haven't done that talk in a long time. So that's going to be very interesting.
Great people.
That is a conversation I want you here for, because these people, and I've said this to them, and they laughed, and it's true. You can laugh too. After I got off the phone with them, when I was done towards the end of that episode, I said, you guys are so well spoken that I feel like I need to go back to college the next time that I speak to you guys. So
he didn't plan to tell me that. I didn't know that was his comment. It's just a funny line.
Leslie and Steven will tell you at the end of the episode, I said, I feel like I need to go back to school in order to talk to you guys next time. So Thank God you'll be joining me for that episode. I'm going to have Joe come in because he's a big UFO buff.
I won't even do notes for that. I'll let Joey do the notes. I'll just round off the conversation.
So it'll be Joe, and hopefully Joey comes in too. But Joey, he might not come for that episode, but I'm going to have Joe fill in for that because he's big into UFOs as well, and that's our sound guy, Joe. And he's going to mention that one of the Blink-182 guys is, I think, Tom DeLonge is very affiliated in ufology. So he's a big Blink-182 guy, and he's our sound guy. So he's going to come in on that episode. It's going to be a good one. And then, of course, we're going to compile all of our stuff in the next few weeks that's coming in.
Gotta get some tinfoil.
Yeah, get the tinfoil hats ready because the next few weeks he's going to have a lot of stuff. But definitely Leslie and Stephen Shaw will be on in November. And then, of course, we go into the holiday season. We'll have some Christmassy spooky stuff yet again.
Yep.
And then season 5 comes to an end. And in 2025, we'll have season 6 begin and a brand new season of the Swab Podcast. Of course, in December, the 4-year birthday of the Say What Again, Billy podcast.
So wild.
Crazy. I wish I had you guys on the journey from the beginning, but now here we are.
Hey, that's what happens.
That's what happens. And there's been another episode and the conclusion to spooky season on the Say What Again, Billy podcast.
See ya.
Peace out, everybody.